two, one. What's going on, folks? Welcome to 34 Questions. Tonight, I have a very special guest. Kimball is in the house. How you doing, Kim?
I'm great, thank you. How are you?
Doing well. Last interview of the day, and after this, get to enjoy the evening. I want to thank you again for coming on. Thank you for being open with sharing your story and your perspective. I know it's not easy for everybody, so I definitely appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
No problem. And for the folks out there who are unfamiliar with the flow of the show, we have some intro questions, some warm-up questions just to set the tone. Have some icebreakers thrown in there as well, just to add some fun to it. And then after that, we'll jump into the main interview where you choose a number between 1 and 34, and we get the conversation rolling that way. Sound good to you, Kim?
Sounds great.
All right. Well, without further ado, my first question for you is, how have you been? You've been doing well. You've been going through it. It's been a crazy year for all of us. So how have you been?
It has been a crazy year, but we just got back from a vacation to New Mexico. My husband, my mom, and her boyfriend, and myself, and it was just a really beautiful time. I love that area of the country and just had a lot of downtime. And so I'm feeling refreshed and rejuvenated, and I'm feeling really good. Thank you.
Awesome. Was that your first trip? Post or not? I can't even say if it's post, but
yeah.
It was your first trip in a while.
It is my first trip in a while, and it felt so good. Yeah, I'm a big traveler, and it just felt really, really good to be back out there again.
I feel you. I had a couple of trips canceled last year, and I'm hoping I can follow through with them this year. All things considered, but. For sure.
Yeah, me too. I had to cancel Mexico and Belize, and I still have heartburn over that. I mean, yeah. Oh.
Yeah. So many things. We missed a chance on in 2020. Yeah. But that just makes me feel like if you missed any concerts or shows or even any trips, like the energy is going to be on a whole different level because like everyone's on the same page. Like we're back. Everyone's back.
Yes, exactly. It makes us appreciate it more.
No doubt. Before we go any further, I'd like to jump into a couple icebreakers if that's okay with you.
Sure.
This first one is a one-word spelling bee. Feel free to pass, but are you down?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. Your word is going to be daiquiri.
Daiquiri. Oh, this is a hard one.
Yeah, it is.
There are a couple of words in the English language that I just get stumped by every time. Okay. Daiqui. Oh no, hold on. No, I'm wrong. Daiquiri. Is that right?
You got one more chance.
Oh,
and
man.
I will tell you right now, you were on the right track on the first time. So if you remember what letters you used then.
Okay, DAI, I do remember. DAIQUIRI.
You got it.
Yeah!
Flexing. You gotta flex your skills.
Yes.
This is a hard one.
That was a hard one. Yes.
The I in the middle, that's the one I think a lot of people miss, but you had it on the first try.
I needed to trust my instincts and not doubt them. Yeah.
That's hard. I'm an overthinker, so anytime I get into a position like that, I'm like, multiple choice questions get me all the time because I'm like, it could be that one, it could be this one. And yeah, it takes
I'm great at the multiple choice.
Oh, what's your secret?
Yeah.
What's your secret? Or like you just know?
Okay, so I took a test prep thing for I believe it was like the grad school test that I had to take, and they teach you that whatever the longest multiple choice is, that's the right answer. So if you don't know, choose the longest one.
Interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah, because it's really hard to make like the right thing shorter.
I got you.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I'm always thinking about like process of elimination, like which one seems like it doesn't fit with the other ones, but that has not served me well. So I'll try your strategy.
Try my method, yeah.
Definitely will, especially now that I'm thinking about going back to school.
You go.
That's gonna come in handy.
Yeah, awesome.
And then my next icebreaker is a riddle. Are you into riddles at all, or?
I feel like I'm terrible at them, but you can hit me with it.
All right, for sure. This one is, what comes once in a minute, twice in a moment, but never in 1,000 years?
Oh my gosh. See, yeah, I'm terrible at these. Once in a minute, twice in a moment, and never in 1,000 years.
Yeah. It sounds very philosophical, but it's the answer isn't.
I feel like it's something very practical, like
on the right track.
Like some number of seconds, you know? I don't know. I don't even know where to begin with this one. You're going to have to tell me.
No worries. The answer was the letter M.
Oh,
once in a minute,
my gosh.
I know, right?
See, I was not even thinking in the right direction. I'm glad that I just called it.
No worries. Before you and a couple other guests, they actually had a timer for the riddle, and I felt like that was just too much pressure sometimes. But yeah. Thank you for participating.
Yeah, of course.
And now you could use this with your friends.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's jump into a few more warm-up questions. This next one is, what would you like the audience to know about you?
I would love the audience to know that I love deep questions like this. Like, this is so fun for me. I'm not somebody that likes to play in the shallow end of life at all. I'm quite bad at it, actually. I'm somebody that, like, if you're in a party situation, I'm in the corner of the room, like, having really deep conversation. This is one of the reasons I was so excited to come on this podcast. So yeah, and then I'm somebody that I want to drink the marrow out of life, and that I want to experience all of it. I want to fully live. And I used to be very averse to pain. And I realized that was keeping me from so much of life. And now I want the full spectrum, you know? I want to be able to go out and say that I really lived. So yeah, it seems like a good place to start. No doubt.
Yeah, I mean, I am very similar in the way that I like having these conversations with people as well. And I don't know if you've ever came across with the issue that some people get turned off by it.
Oh, yeah.
Like, why are you bringing this up? Why are you talking about this? And I always feel bad because I'm like, I never meant to put them in an uncomfortable position. It's just that I thought everybody liked talking about these things.
It's not everyone's jam, that's for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. My second question for you is, if someone were to pay you a tribute, how would you like to be honored? If I was telling myself today I'm gonna do something in the honor of Kim, what kind of act could I do?
A tribute. You know, I'm thinking back to what has been the most meaningful to me and tributes in my life. And I have a particular memory when I don't remember what birthday it was of mine, but I had the most special people in my life gathered around me. And someone had the suggestion of saying how we met and going around the circle and saying your fondest memories with me. And that was like one of the most touching things to me. So if you were to pay me tribute, I think it would be really being a mirror for me and shining back my goodness and saying some sort of really fond memory that you have with me, or thing that I did or said that was meaningful or touched you in some way. Because those things are so meaningful to me in my life, and of course what I'm striving to do with people. So I think the best tribute is that, to mirror back my goodness and give me some specific, like, really fond memories that you have of me or with me.
For sure. I gotcha. And now the people in your life know what they gotta do. And my last question for you in the warm-up is, on a scale from 1 to 10, how well do you know yourself?
I would say somewhere in a 7 to 8. And I would say that is being conservative, because I give so much space for subconscious mind. and things that I consider, the mind, the heart, the body, it's like peeling the layers of an onion, and there's always more and there's always deeper. And I think that that's amazing and awesome. And so I don't want to sit here and be like, I'm a 10 and I know myself entirely, because I just think that that's impossible. I'm 38 years old. I know myself a lot better than I did when I was 28. We're constantly growing in that way. But I have a good amount of self-awareness. Yeah.
For sure. What would you say is your favorite thing about your personality?
I think it's my depth. It's the thing that, like you talked about, 34, that it can be off-putting to some people, but I think that's my gift. I think it's a gift that I have to, and to make people feel comfortable with going to the depths, because I think a lot of people aren't comfortable with that. And I know that so many people have reflected to me, that it feels safe to go there when they talk to me. And that's just such a natural place for me to flow. So I think it is, my depth. For sure.
Have you always been aware of that depth, or was that something that you kind of realized as you got older, or, through your experiences?
This is bringing up a fun memory, you asking me this question. So there was a time in college when I lived with, my senior year of college, I lived with 9 girls. And there were 5 guys that lived in our basement. So it was a lot of people, and we hung out all the time. It was an amazing time. And one of my roommates, who is still a dear friend to this day, so we've been friends for a very long time, she would just have these moments where I would say something that I thought was normal and just everyday. And she'd be like, man, Kim, I feel like I'm going to publish a coffee table book with the things that you say. She was always like, how do you come up with this shit? I don't understand how you do this. And so for me, it was normal. And I think at that time that it didn't really come to me. And so I think the answer is that it's always been there, and it's something that I've become increasingly more aware of as I become more and more self-aware, and maybe have some more differentiation of oh, not everyone is like that, Mm-hmm. So I would say it took me into my potentially late 20s, early 30s.
I feel you. Mm-hmm. I mean, for me personally, I think I had this naivety. I don't know if I'm using the right word.
Naivety?
Naivety.
Yeah.
That, oh yeah, everybody thinks about these things, or everybody wants to talk about these things. So yeah, I was pretty naive about that. And in college, there was some party where I asked somebody what their favorite toy was, their childhood toy, and they got super defensive about it. And I was like, whoa, I don't know what I did wrong. But that really closed me off, and I was like, maybe I should stop talking. And for a long time, I don't know why, but now in my 30s, I've kind of especially during Corona and having the time to reflect, I was really like, okay, well, what is it that I really want to do? And it came back to that, and I was like, what if I wasn't afraid of getting that pushback, or that feedback of being uncomfortable? What could I do? So yeah, now I'm at that point where I'm just embracing it, and hopefully connecting with people who also enjoy it and appreciate these talks as well. So yeah,
you're doing it.
trying.
Yeah.
I know there's no try, but I still feel like I'm trying.
Yeah,
for sure. Let's jump into the main portion. There are 3
ready.
levels. There's a easy, medium, hard. I don't know if you just want to jump straight into the deep end, but it's up to you. But yeah, give me a level and a number.
All right, let's do medium. I need a little bit of a warm up, maybe.
Okay.
We'll do medium, and I'm gonna go with 17.
17. What is something you wish you could unlearn?
Ooh, juicy. I like it. Okay, so I have a very specific thing with this that came immediately to mind. I'm going to try not to filter myself, so I'm just going to say it.
For sure.
So I was brought up in Christianity, and it's not that I would unlearn Christianity itself, because I think there are so many beautiful things, and I still believe in Jesus, and I still believe in God in a very different context than the way that I was raised. But I think that there are so many different harmful pieces of theology, and yeah, that's the best way I know how to put it, is just like harmful pieces of theology, things that I don't believe today that are true, that really impacted me in some really major ways and shaped and formed worldviews that within itself I want to unlearn. You know, for example, to elaborate a little bit, within Christianity, a lot of the time we're taught the heart is deceitful above all things. That's one of the verses in the Bible. And I believe that that verse has been taken severely out of context, and sort of demonized. And so I grew up not trusting my body, not trusting my heart, not trusting my own desires, and thinking that my desires were wrong and bad. And I couldn't trust myself, right? So there are things like this that may seem small, but that really has such a ripple effect to how you live out your life in a really major way. So, you know, that's just one example, but yes, it would be unlearning different pieces of what I believe at this point in time to be toxic theology, really a separation between me and God. I wish that I had learned, you know, that God is in all things and all creatures and all beings, and that I can never be separate from God, and that I'm not inherently bad and awful, you know? So many things about the way that I have viewed myself, I've had to peel back the layers and unlearn with that.
For sure. First off, thank you for opening up. I also come from a Catholic background.
Catholic, yeah.
But I also have kind of moved on from Catholicism in the sense that I still believe in God. It's just in a different context. So for you, would you consider yourself more religious or spiritual?
I would say spiritual at this point for sure. And maybe it depends on your definition of religion and spiritual. For me, my definition of religion is much more so rules and regulations and do this, don't do this. And God will be pleased with you if you do this, but unpleased with you if you do the other thing. And really kind of these rules and regulations to maintain or obtain a relationship with God. And for me, spirituality is much more so, you know, God, source, universe, whatever you want to call it, I don't care, is divine love and is there all the time. And there's never any separation. And so I'm much more into tapping into that than following a rule book. So.
For sure. Yeah, I'm one of those people that put God and the universe like as a synonymous term, you know?
Yes.
Would you say that's something where, like, I want to say it was the Great Awakening for like that religious revolution back in the day, but for now, do you think this is a second awakening? Because I feel like there's a lot more kids or like a lot more youth that kind of have that view where they aren't necessarily, you know, following a certain religion anymore. It's just we're all kind of on the same page. Like we know there's a higher power, and we should just respect it because of all the gifts it's kind of given us. But yeah, do you feel that as well? Absolutely.
So I grew up Protestant. My husband grew up very conservative Catholic. And we've both gone through what I label as a deconstruction journey. So a faith deconstruction journey and now a reconstruction journey. And I just see a mass exodus from the church in general. And honestly, it's because I don't think it's working. I don't think that the way that the church structure is set up is working for people. And like I said, I think that there's a lot of theology that's actually causing harm. And so yeah, I think people are wise to that. And people are wanting something more and something different. And it's not that we're not spiritual, like you said. And it's not that we don't believe in God or a higher power. Of course, there are people who don't. And I'm not saying that those people should in any stretch of the imagination. I'm just saying a lot of the people who are no longer a part of the institutional church, it's not because they don't believe in God. It's because they believe that the church system and the way that it is right now is broken and it's not doing what it's meant to do, which is connect us to God. It's actually acting like a gatekeeper to keep us away, you know?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. A lot of reasons why we wouldn't be connected with God, you know, that we're told. Interesting. Very interesting. I had another question, but it fleeted my mind.
It left. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It might come back.
Yeah. Well, we hope he comes back. But in the meantime, go ahead and throw me another number.
All right. Let's do 22.
22. What do you think of cancel culture?
Oh my gosh. This is a great question. So, and I like that you're asking me this question because I typically stay away from all political discussions. And there are moments where I just wish that I could scream my opinion from the rooftops on this, and you're giving me the platform. So I will do it.
Go for it.
I hate it. I hate cancel culture. I think that it's one of the greatest atrocities of our time, honestly. So I was listening to something this morning that kind of encapsulated my thoughts and opinions and beliefs on this really well. And that is, you know, I don't know if there are listeners here outside of America, but of course here in America, we have two-party system. There's Republicans, there's Democrats, and we're at war with each other all the time. And we all hate each other, and the other side is wrong and bad and the source of all evil in our country. And you know, I'm right and you're wrong and all this stuff going on. And anybody who doesn't adhere to exactly the way that I believe, I'm going to cancel you and you're bad and terrible and you're an awful human being, right? And so I heard something this morning, and it was actually Russell Brand who said this, but he was like, essentially something along the lines of both sides are doing the same exact thing. It's just that under a guise of being different. And the example of that was, you know, Biden is moving towards the green energy deal. And of course, Trump is demonized for pipelines, et cetera, et cetera. But those pipelines actually came in effect under Obama administration, and they were just finalized under Trump's. And of course, Trump got demonized. And I am not in any way stretch of the imagination endorsing Trump or, you know, building him up in any way. Of course, there's so much corruption there. My point is there's corruption on both sides. So now with the green deal with Biden, of course, everybody is building him up and saying it's so wonderful. Well, what's happening with that is they're actually drilling down into Native American land and soil like 2 miles into the earth to get the copper for the lithium and the copper and lithium for the batteries that's needed to replace all of these gasoline vehicles. So which one is worse? You know, it's just that one was very clearly capitalistic and you know, colonialism and all the other things, and then one is under the guise of saying is good and we're doing good and we're helping climate change, et cetera, but really we're doing the same shit. And so my thing with cancel culture is that we need, in my opinion, to rise up to a different level of consciousness than we're currently having, so that we can see really that the whole system just needs to be overhauled. And we need to quit thinking of the other people as enemies. We need to find common ground. We need to understand and have, and I know this is something that you do with your podcast, which I was so grateful to see this. We need to understand differences of opinion. We need to learn how to hold difference of opinion without arguing, without canceling, without tearing each other down. And of course, that does not mean that we need to accept racism or homophobia or any of these other things, I'm not saying that at all, but I am saying that people can have differences of opinion and not cancel each other. It's inhumane when we do that to each other. And it's easy to do when we're behind a screen and we're not thinking of the other person as a human being. And there's so much harm, that comes from this. So yeah, I've been holding that inside for a while. So
I think that was great. Thank you for using this platform to speak your mind. Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult conversation to have because you really don't know how other people feel about it. I understand, like, we gotta hold people accountable for their actions. I understand that, like you said, it's not like we're condoning their actions at all, but it's just that quick reaction to condemn somebody, before we even really know all the details, because the line is drawn, either you're right or wrong, when I think a lot of people out there know it's not that simple.
No.
But I think maybe it comes down to like how our society or our generation's kind of impatient. Like everything's kind of like at our fingertips and easily accessible. So maybe we're trying to convert that also into these moments or these cases where we're like, nope, we need to know right now that they're guilty or not. And if you're not going to tell us, then it seems like public opinion just takes over, and it's like whatever everyone thinks, then that's the right thing. And man, I don't agree with that as well.
Yeah. You're in or you're out, Yeah. I'm going to toss you to the trash. You have no worth and value if you don't believe exactly the same thing as me.
Yeah. I mean, we see that. I don't want to get too much into politics either, but that's really one of the biggest, especially every election year, we seem to really turn it up. And I don't think that's by accident. There's those other powers that be that kind of have their own agendas.
All a plan.
Yeah. It's a shame. Do you see an end or a change coming? Because I want to be optimistic and say, the people, we're going to figure it out. We're going to find a way to kind of break free from the system. But the system's pretty strong, and I can see them even taking a stronger hold now. They've taken advantage of Corona for sure. So.
Yes, I think that I've always been somebody who tends to take a third way on things, which is why I feel like I'm really outside of this two-party system. I'm able to see good in both sides, and I'm able to see evil in both sides. And to answer your question, I feel like because that's sort of the world that I live in, where I'm not really ascribing or drinking the Kool-Aid of either side, I feel like I can see more of people who agree and believe those same things and aren't taking part in cancel culture. And I see that more. And I hope that awareness is being raised more and more, that, cancel culture and demonizing others. The tricky part with it is that by doing that, we're doing the exact same thing that we say that we don't like in the other person. Mm-hmm. It's literally the exact same behavior. And for some reason, we're blind to it. And of course, I'm not saying that I don't have my blind spots. I'm not trying to make myself superior in any way. Just trying to observe what I see going on. So I guess what I'm saying is, I have hope, but gosh, I think it's going to be slow,
Yeah. I mean, I think it's going to just take time. And unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be in our lifetimes.
No.
It might get a little bit more worse before it gets better too.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I have a lot of people come on here and kind of, want the future to know that they tried their best, or, they're sorry. And I kind of feel like I'm in the same boat, because even ourselves, like, the decisions that were made in previous decades kind of affect us, but now it just feels like we've gone past the point of no return on a lot of issues, especially like climate change and whatnot. That there needs to be some serious action and probably some serious events that happen before we change our lifestyle, pretty much.
I agree. Yeah.
I'm going to throw you a curveball at this point.
Ooh, all right.
It's going to be a fill in the blank. So yours is, life is all about blank.
Love.
Love. How do you mean? Why is love so important?
I think it's the one universal truth. Yeah, I think it's the one, in my opinion, I think it's the one thing that makes everything worthwhile, you know? And not just, you know, are you loving your partner or your spouse or your family, but are you treating every, you know, the clerk in the checkout line, the person in traffic? I think our whole point and purpose is to evolve and how much love we are being able to give and show and demonstrate to other people and to receive for ourselves.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as you were answering that question that kind of fled my mind earlier, came back to me.
Oh, good. See?
And it was, you had mentioned something about a deconstructive journey and a reconstructive journey.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about spirituality and religion at the time. What other deconstructive journeys do you think people go through?
Ooh, I like that question. That's a good one. I think the most common is deconstruction of old identities that aren't working anymore for them.
Okay.
Yeah. So like, I'll give you some examples for me. Good girl. I'm going to be pretty pleasing and polite. I'm going to make sure I'm not rocking the boat. I'm going to say all the right things. I'm going to make sure everybody likes me and is pleased with me. That I stay quiet and small and unassuming and I don't take up too much space. You know, I've had to shed that in order to come into more of the fullness of who I am. And I think every single person, obviously it doesn't have to be that identity, but has to shed a lot of identities that perhaps they have taken on in the course of, you know, wearing a different mask and wearing a different mask and wearing a different mask in order to be you know, what we felt at the time was necessary to be accepted or loved or approved of or to get ahead or any of those things. And then you reach a point where this isn't working. It's making me miserable. It's not getting me what I actually want and need. And I gotta let it go, you know? So I'd say the deconstruction journey is also, you know, throughout our lifetime, just shedding different identities.
For sure. Would you say you believe that, you know how they say people don't change? Do you think people change?
All the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
Would you say that there are still things in our childhood that kind of stick though? Or is it, I guess, yeah. Would you say there's things in it from our childhood that stick to us as far as personality goes?
That's a great question. So the reason I say all the time is because I'm a life coach and I see people change all the time, every day. I help facilitate that change and it's amazing and it's phenomenal, you know? I think how much change we are capable of is like people barely scratch the surface of it. I see people make so much, like I said, phenomenal change. And we can't do but so much at a time because our nervous systems can't handle but so much change at a time, right? But if you look at me even a year ago versus now, I feel like I'm I gave birth to a new version of me in like 9 months, you know? So change is most certainly possible. And yet there are deeply rooted patterns, if you would, ways of relating, ways of being, that yes, they're going to surface at times. And yet what I would say to that is that even as I'm continuing to work those things out and they're continuing to surface, I'm more aware of them more quickly. And I have more power to pause and more power to choose differently. And so I don't think that anything needs to be permanent unless you want it to be, you know? I think changing your personality or changing your, like the nature part of you is different, if that makes sense. I would kind of separate that out and say there are certain elements of my personality that I don't see or really want or desire to change, but there are other elements where it's like different ingrained patterns of being and relating and all of that. And I would say that doesn't need to remain there unless you want it there, you know?
Gotcha. You mentioned life coaching. I don't really get into people's occupations or titles, but I am curious. So how long have you been doing that for?
I've been doing it for 3 years now. Yeah, it was really brought about by some traumatic things in my life that I uprooted everything and I backpacked around the world by myself, and I went on my own like eat, pray, love journey and got really, really clear on what I'm supposed to do. And it works out great because I love asking deep questions. And that's what you do as a coach. And you're a mirror to hold back up to somebody else what's going on inside them and helping them excavate that. So yeah, it just feels like what I was born to do, which is great.
That's what's up. My previous guest right before you today is also just started a life coach kind of entrepreneurship, and you know she just started out trying to find her niche, and you know which people really gravitate towards her and everything. What advice would you give someone who maybe might be trying to get into that field?
My advice, a couple of things. The first thing is I firmly believe in actually getting certified. It is not currently a regulated and licensed profession. And I believe that we're moving towards that at a really rapid pace. But for me personally, I think when you're holding space for somebody on that level and you're walking them through some of those really tender and vulnerable things that happen in their life, in order to be in integrity, I think it's really, really important that you actually get certified and that you're just not kind of hanging a shingle and calling yourself a life coach. There was a lot that I went through in my training where we discuss ethics, you know, where we discuss what is within the realm of a life coach and when you need to refer out, you know, having, different emergency numbers on call, being able to screen people for different mental health illnesses that are not in our realm and domain. And without training, I think that those things can get lost, and life coaches can end up dabbling in the realm that is not theirs to dabble in. I don't believe that coaches should ever be in the realm of trauma, because some things may come up that we're not equipped to handle, quite frankly. And I think it's really important that we operate in integrity. So that's the first thing is get certified, preferably with an ICF accredited organization. And then the second thing is to coach as many people as possible. Get as much practice as possible before, like you were talking about your previous guest, before you try to niche down, because there's really no way of knowing what you enjoy, what you like, what your thing is without coaching a lot of people. That's how you get to know what you most gravitate towards, what you most enjoy, what your special sauce is, right? Is by coaching a lot of different people. So, yeah.
Gotcha. Thank you for the advice, and I'm sure there's people out there who are gonna take that to heart. Maybe for me too. I mean, I never really thought of myself as a life coach. I think I'm just more of a listener, maybe a mentor of some sorts to some people. But my
husband's the same. He balks at the label life coach, but he's very much like you, where he wants to have the deep conversations, have the deep questions. Is more comfortable with like the term mentor or consulting or something like that. Yeah.
Consulting. My dream job would be to be a consultant to help team morale in work environments, I think.
Him too. Oh my gosh. I'm going to have to connect you guys after this podcast. If you guys would hit it off.
That'd be crazy. Yeah. Please do.
Yes.
I'm not sure if that's a thing. I know it was when I worked with the youth, there's a lot of training that happens, and I know it's something that they do, but I've had about 12 jobs in 10 years or so. And I can see a lot of the improvement that can happen with work team morale.
Yep.
So yeah, we definitely got to talk.
Yeah, I will.
All right, go ahead and throw me another number.
All right, let's do 11.
11. Still medium?
Oh, we can go to hard now. I feel warmed up.
Okay, for sure. This one's, I always try to like brace myself sometimes for the questions. Gosh. I don't think it's too bad. I feel like you're gonna be like, oh, this one's easy, but.
Okay.
When was the last time you cried?
Oh, yeah, that one's pretty easy. To be honest with you though, to be completely transparent, I'm not a big crier.
For sure.
And I wish I was more. It's something that I've actively worked on allowing to flow more through me. So my childhood was an extremely difficult one. I had a family member that was a drug addict and alcoholic, and I felt like I needed to be the strong one all the time. And so I really learned to armor up and to shut down my emotions. And I felt like my parents needed me to be perfect and needed me to be the strong one and needed me to hold everything all together. And so that's a role that I have been in the process of shedding, and an identity I've been in the process of shedding. And so with my husband particularly, I can end up, being soft and crying a good bit, but I wish that I cried even more than I did, to give you a little bit of background on that. But I'm going to say a couple of weeks, maybe. For sure. Yeah.
You made me think about maybe rephrasing this question in some way. But first off, thank you for opening up. I know I never expect people to open up, as much as I think they should. But I just want to say thank you for sharing that story. And yeah, crying is interesting because I feel like as I'm getting older, I'm flowing a little bit more. I'm a sucker for scenes in movies and TV shows.
Me too. That always brings it out more, I can bring it out more that way than like my own life.
I don't know why, but yeah, same here. Yeah. I don't know if you've I will recommend it to you now. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but it's the Mr. Rogers documentary.
Oh, I love it. Yes, that was very, very good. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
That was an emotional one. Actually, I remembered the last time I cried as you were saying this. So I was on vacation in Santa Fe last week, which I told you about. And we went to these gorgeous, beautiful art galleries, and art is really moving to me. It touches me in this really, really deep way. And as I was viewing this painting, I just started bawling. I mean, just looking at the painting, I was just like, ah. So yes, it's been 1 week.
Okay, for sure. Yeah, I'm very curious what this painting is now.
I'll have to send you the picture, but it was one of the most beautiful paintings I've ever seen, and it was of white aspens, and it was like in the fall, so it had yellow leaves, and it was just the way the light was shining through. It was a huge painting, but it was just one of the most exquisite pieces it was so beautiful. And it was just the beauty of it that touched me in such a deep way. Yeah.
That sounds dope. Just a heads up, we have about 10-15 minutes left in the podcast. I want to thank you again for coming on in your time. I hope you're having fun. This has been a great conversation.
This has been great.
Awesome. I think we could knock out one more number. Go for it. Okay.
Let's do 3.
3. All right. What emotion would you get rid of? Like if you could get rid of one for yourself.
So that is very hard because I specifically teach that no emotion is bad or wrong, and that every emotion is a signal of what is going on inside of us that we need to pay attention to and we need to honor, and just be an empty vessel and allow it to flow through us and receive the message and act accordingly, right? Mm-hmm. So that's something that I am very, very passionate about. But what I will say, I almost feel like I'm turning against myself because of that reason. But shame I think.
Yeah, shame is a big one.
Shame is like the most isolating and has the potential to shut you down, I think, the most of anything else. And I feel like it's the root of so much. It's just the root of so much in our lives, of what holds us back in our lives is shame. So if I could get rid of anything, I think it would be that. Yeah.
What would you say is like the opposite of shame? I'm not sure myself, so I'm curious what you would
I
say.
think self-love and self-acceptance is the opposite.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay. Because the thing about this question I had thought about was, when someone says they're gonna get rid of one emotion, you're pretty much almost getting
you're getting rid of all of them. That's it.
Yeah. So it's a trip to think that because we get rid of shame, we wouldn't have self-love as often. But self-love, what would you say that means to you, or how would you define self-love?
I kind of hate the way that it's become such a buzz thing, but I think it is so important. I think that people kind of slap it on as like this all-encompassing pass to do whatever they want and just accept themselves and love themselves and take bubble baths all the time and never do the hard thing. And that's not what self-love is to me at all. Self-love is loving and accepting every part of ourselves, and yet holding ourselves accountable simultaneously to the greatness that is within us. So it's both of those things simultaneously and together. It's not one without the other, I don't get a free pass to do or speak or say or treat other people however I want to treat them because I love myself, right? Yes, there is grace and there is love for myself and my humanness and every aspect of my humanness and all my shadow parts and everything belongs. And yet there is accountability. Right? There is needing to make hard choices and hard decisions and not just coast. And like I said, bubble baths and what makes me feel good. Sometimes what is best for me, it's choosing what's best for me. And sometimes what's best for me is hard. Sometimes what's best for me is not something that I am enjoying or that I would necessarily want to do,
How do you feel about the statement? Because it's something that someone had brought up when I asked them the same question. They said that self-love is the balance between selfishness and selflessness. Any thoughts on that statement?
I think I like that.
Yeah?
I think selfishness gets a bad rap. I don't think that selfishness is bad or wrong. And I think that balance is exactly what you're saying. Like, I think that a lot of times we get taught to have no self. But to me, selfishness is having a defined sense of self. And I believe that having defined sense of self is actually very healthy. We can only relate to another person if we have a defined sense of self. What else are we relating with? What else are they relating to? So it is that balance, like the person was saying. And I don't know that I would choose to word it that way because I think people have a negative connotation with the word selfish. But if we actually think about what it is and I frame it in that way, I don't have a problem with it.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's how people define those terms. But it is something that I understand to be as a balance, which for me, the question of your life is all about balance in my case. But yeah, it's tricky. It gets tricky though.
Balance is one of the most important things. Yeah. And I like that's yours. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lifelong thing too. I don't think because the good times can happen when you're young and then the bad times catch up, or vice versa. And I don't think balance has a timeline. So it's just kind of like appreciating the good moments and knowing that the bad moments are going to pass. Something I just try to keep in my mind. But yeah, absolutely. All right. I think we might be able to knock out one more number.
I'm game.
All right.
Yeah,
go for it.
All right, let's do 8.
What is your mission?
I like that. This feels like a sacred thing to voice. Pausing. My mission is to help women specifically really return to who they are at their core, to return to their sovereignty, to return to their interdependence instead of kind of swinging between codependency and hyper independence. Helping people have really fulfilling relationships, all relationships, not just, with their partner or whatever, but partner, family, friends. I had really painful relationships for a very long time. And I think that it's within all of our hearts, in whatever way, we all want to feel connected. We all want to feel that we belong. And I want people to, like I said, women specifically, to feel such connection and belonging within themselves that they then have that with other people, and they have those healthy relationships with other people because of the relationship with themselves. So that's my mission. Yeah.
That was beautiful, for sure. And yeah, we've made it to the concluding portion of the podcast. I have some closeout questions, so we're not done yet with the questions. This next question is actually from my previous guest. Been trying to find a way to connect each guest to each other.
Yeah, that's cool. I love this.
Right on. This one was from Christine, and this one is from Maxie, and his question is, where do you see yourself 10 years from now?
10 years from now, I have the goal to be location independent. I have a very nomadic heart and spirit, and I get really filled up by seeing and experiencing new cultures and new things. And that's been a goal of mine for a while. And I think in 10 years, my husband and I will certainly be living that and doing that. So I would actually really I live in Richmond, Virginia. I would love to have our home here still, and then be able to have a home somewhere else, potentially, maybe in the Midwest or in the West, and or travel like 6 months out of the year. So that's the hugest goal that I have. And the other thing that I would say in 10 years, I hope that I have multiple children. My husband and I really want to have kids. So I imagine myself being in full-on mom mode, and also just having made a big impact towards the mission that I already stated. Like, that's my dream. That's my hope. I want to be able to look back, from those 10 years and say, like, I know that I helped women in this major way.
For sure. And then the next question is, what would you like to ask the next guest that comes on to 34 questions?
I have thought about this one, and the question that I want to leave is, if someone met you like for the first time and they didn't know anything about you, and the only thing that they could do would be observe your life, what would they say you believe?
Interesting. Man, yeah, that makes me kind of think how I would answer that.
Yeah, I would love to hear it if you want to share, or you may need time to think about it.
No. What would people say if they were going to observe me? So I guess it would have to depend on the element, right? Like on this podcast, I think it's a very different idea of what you would get if I was at a party. But yeah. I guess hopefully what they're getting from this podcast is that I enjoy stories, and I'm very welcoming or open to other people's perspectives, ideas, and energy. That's from this podcast. I will say, if they've caught me at a party, I was like, oh, he's the quiet one, or he's more interested in playing games and doing competitions and stuff, because that's where I'm at usually at the party. Is if someone's playing a game, I'm with them playing, or just being quiet. So two different sides of my life, and I'm sure, you know, you catch me in the classroom, I'm a different person. You catch me in the car, you know, I'm the guy who loves to sing. So it really depends on the place. That's interesting. Yeah. Now I just thought about all the pieces of me in different places. So
yeah,
I'll
it's
keep
cool.
that in mind. And my final question for you, the question that ties everything together, what would you like your descendants to know about you? 500 years from now, they're watching this, trying to understand who they are. What would you tell them?
I love this question, and I honestly hope that some of my descendants get to watch this in the digital age. Maybe this will be like CDs or something. Have you ever thought about that? This is going to be like such an archaic way of doing things.
Yeah. You know, someone actually brought up something to me. It was like, you should transcribe these. And because if anything's going to last, it might be the written word.
That's true.
Yeah. So I'm like, damn, I got to figure out that process of getting these conversations, and which is cool. It makes me think it's like a collection of these stories.
It's a time capsule.
Yeah. So
yeah,
well, we'll see.
But what I would hope that they would know about me is that I am somebody who has worked so incredibly hard to break generational cycles of pain and of trauma and of ways of relating and being that aren't healthy. And that I have worked really hard to be someone who said within my family line, it stops here with me, it stops here. And that my goal in doing all of that is so that whoever comes after me can expand more and be more loving and have a better life. You know, not that my life is bad by any stretch of the imagination, but my hope is that every generation can get better and better, as we were talking about. So that I've made it my life goal and mission to end some generational patterns with me. Yeah.
For sure. And I think they'll appreciate it. Any last things you wanted to add before we head out of here?
I don't think so. Just that this has been so fun. And I think this format is just amazing. And I've really enjoyed talking with you. And I thank you so much for your time.
No worries. I honestly, it's my pleasure. Thank you again for coming on and spending your time sharing your stories. I definitely appreciate it. I can't thank you enough. I feel that every time I have a guest come on, I think I thank them 5 different times throughout the podcast, and I'm going to do it one more time after we stop recording. But I want to thank all the folks out there as well for listening, checking out the video on YouTube or wherever you're checking out the podcast. Appreciate your time as well. Remember to reach out, reach forward. As always, much love. And we'll catch you next time on 34 Questions.